which are the dessert ones. So I've got, again, a cup of milk, again at room temperature, and 1 egg. So this starts out quite a bit like the savory. And I'm going to whisk that together real quickly. And to that I'm going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, or about a 1/2 capful. A 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Remember, salt brings out the sweetness when you're doing baked goods. A tablespoon of sugar. And then a cup of all-purpose flour. So this is very similar to the galettes, except for we're using all-purpose flour and the ratio is slightly different. And I always like to err on the side of caution, as they say. In other words, when I'm making crepe batter, if it's a little thick when you first make it, that's better than too thin, because you can always thin it out with a little bit of milk when it's time to fry up. And this is a little bit thick, but it'll be all right, because I will let this come together in the refrigerator, and then I will thin it out with milk when it's time to fry. And then I'm going to add some fresh nutmeg, and you won't see this in all crepe recipes. This is my addition. The addition of some fresh nutmeg just gives it a little in the background. Nobody's going to go, wow, there's nutmeg in this. But they are going to go, ooh, there's something delicious in there. So I'm not doing a lot, maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon. And oh boy, that smells so good. So you can see this is a little bit thicker. But both of the batters for the galettes and the crepes, I will judge the thickness when it's time to fry and add a little bit of milk as needed. So I'm going to cover this and put it in the fridge as well. And then we'll get going on our toppings. I'm going to start preparing the fillings for our crepes, our dessert ones. So I've got a tablespoon of sugar, and I'm going to add just a little sprinkle of cinnamon, a little bit of nutmeg, even less than the cinnamon, and then a little bit of cardamom. I like the cardamom because it brings a little kind of floral, citrusy flavor to the dish. I'm just going to mix that up and set that aside. And I'm going to go ahead and peel and core this apple. I've got the apples all sliced up. I'm going to mix in our sugar and spice mixture. I didn't slice the apples too thin because I want them to retain a little bit of texture after I cook them. And I'm going to add just a drizzle of honey. Now I know we have sugar in here, but honey is a different kind of sweetness. So I'm just going to add a little bit. And I'm going to mix that up. And then we're going to go to the stove and saute these. I've got a tablespoon of butter that I melted. I'm going to go ahead and put it on medium heat and put our apples in. And we're just going to saute them till they're tender, but they still have a little bit of their texture left. And this is going to be for one of our dessert crepes. I'm going to add just a squeeze of lemon juice. The lemon juice serves two purposes. Of course, it will keep the apples from turning brown, but more importantly, it adds just a little bit of brightness, and I think that will be really delicious, and it kind of ties into the cardamom that we put in our spiced sugar. Other things I'm going to make is some sweet and salty pecans. So I've just got them in a pan with no butter or anything, and I'm going to toast them just for a couple of minutes. That'll help bring out the flavor and the oils. And when you can smell the pecans, that means it's time to turn off the heat, or in this case, get to your next step. Okay, the pecans have been toasted in a couple of minutes. I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of butter and just melt that in. We want to make sure we get all the pecans coated. And you want to make sure that you completely coat these with butter, because otherwise the pecans will start to burn. I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of dark brown sugar. And again, we're just going to stir that until all the nuts are coated with the butter and the sugar. You want to keep stirring this so the nuts don't burn, and you want the brown sugar to melt in with the butter. So I'm just about there. And I'm going to add some sea salt. I like the sea salt because I want the texture. I don't want a fine ground salt. You're just going to add a little bit right now, because when you take these out of the pan to cool, you're actually going to taste them and see if you want more salt. You can see now that the brown sugar is kind of melted and pretty well combined. I'm just going to give these about another minute for all those flavors to come together, and then I'm going to put them on a paper plate to cool, and the paper plate will also absorb some of the excess butter. So here we have our pecans. I'm just going to let them cool a bit. I'll give them a taste, and if they need more salt, I'll put it on while the butter is still warm so that the salt sticks. You can also spice these up if you want to add a little chili powder, garlic, a little cumin, whatever flavors you want. So I'm going to let those cool. So here's our crepe batter. It's been sitting out for about an hour. It's definitely thicker than I want it to be, so this is where the milk comes in. And I'm just going to add a little at a time and whisk that in until I get the texture I want. Crepe batter is typically pretty thin because you want the crepe to be thin. It is not a pancake. That looks pretty good. So you can see it's pretty thin. We're going to go ahead and fry these. Time to fry. I've got a hot pan. I'm going to spread it with just a little bit of butter. This is especially important on the first crepe, even though I'm using a non-stick pan. And I'm just going to ladle in one scoop. I'm just going to turn that around the pan. I want to get it nice and thin. It's okay if it goes up the edges a little bit. And then we're just going to let that cook. Not very long, not even a minute probably. And then we'll flip it over. And you want it to be golden brown on both sides, but you don't want it to be stiff. You want it to be pliable so you can fold or roll or whatever you want to do with your crepe. You can see that the batter has set. It's not glossy anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and flip this. And you notice we have just a little golden brown on that side. Don't want to get it too done. Don't want to make it tough. So this one's done. I'm going to go ahead and fry up a few more, and then I will give you some ideas on different ways to fill them. And now for la pièce de résistance, the dessert crepes. I'm going to make several kinds, and you can see I have a lot of different ingredients here. I've got some strawberries and blueberries. I've got our sauteed apples. I had some canned pineapple. Now this would be probably better with fresh, but I'm only making one. So I just got some canned pineapple tidbits. mini chocolate chips. I've got the sweet and salty pecans. I've got some salted peanuts. I've got some crushed up chocolate wafer cookies, not the sandwich cookies, the wafers, so there's none of the cream. I've got caramel and chocolate syrup and whipped cream. So the first one I'm going to do, I like to call the apple pie. We're going to spoon a generous serving of our apples in there. And we're going to roll that up. And then this one we are going to top with some whipped cream. Some caramel sauce. And some of our sweet and salty pecans. The great thing about crepes, whether it's galettes, the savory ones, or the dessert crepes, you can do whatever you want. You can use all kinds of ingredients. Okay, our second one. I'm going to do a very simple one. Got some blueberries. This one would probably be for my grandson. He adores fresh blueberries. But he will also eat them out of the freezer, frozen. Make sure you check that there's no stems. Okay. I'm going to give it a little cream inside. Roll it up. Ooh. I think I didn't roll tight enough, but I can just tuck those right in. A little more cream. A few more berries. And because it's for my grandson, a sprinkle of mini chocolate chips. I used to be a high school teacher, and we had an event every year called Culture Fest, where we celebrated the cultures of our students. And the French Club, we ran a French cafe. We always had crepes. I made them live, and I'd have like 3 pans going at once. And one of the favorites was one we called the Chunky Monkey, which was chocolate almond spread, chocolate hazelnut spread, I'm sorry. Woo! And bananas. But the most favorite was the ones we did with ice cream. So I'm going to kind of put these two together. I'm going to take the flavors of an ice cream sundae and actually a banana split. On top of the chocolate hazelnut spread, I'm going to put some sliced banana. You can put as much or as little as you like. So just this alone, the chocolate hazelnut spread and the banana, was our Chunky Monkey. We did a chocolate covered strawberry, which was the chocolate hazelnut spread with fresh strawberries. But we're going all out here. So what do you get on a banana split? You got your ice cream, chocolate, banana, then there was always a strawberry topping, which I didn't like because they spoiled the beautiful fresh strawberries by putting too much sugar in there. We're not going to do that. And the same with the pineapple. The pineapple syrup was deathly sweet. That's why I'm using just canned pineapple in juice. But like I said, fresh pineapple would really take it over the top. Okay. Gonna roll that up. This one's a little full, but we can get it. Okay. And then Completely decadent. Whipped cream. So that's in place of our ice cream. Caramel sauce. Chocolate sauce. Got some roasted salted peanuts. And I'm going to give it a little bit of the chocolate cookie crumbs as well. The only thing I think I've left out is the cherry on the top, but I don't really care for maraschino cherries, so I think this is one beautiful plate of dessert crepes.